Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Angela. I just did a video, the VR to the Hermit's Cave, Tarot Tubers A to Z, and I was looking at the other videos when I was deciding if I was going to do the video or not, and I came across Tara at Kittens Waiting Tarot, and I saw her video on the Hermit's Cave VR, and then I saw another VR she did To Amethyst Ascension'S, hashtag 11 paranormal questions. So I thought that was interesting, and I was going to go ahead and do that as well. So I'm going to get right into it. Question 1, do you believe in aliens? And if you had asked me this question 4 years ago, 3 years ago even, I would have said no. Aliens don't exist, because in my mind, when I think of aliens, I always think of little green men coming out of a little Martian saucer, flying saucer, and sorry, my lips are chapped. The thing of it is, even though I didn't believe in aliens, I am addicted to the show Ancient Aliens. Now, they quote a lot of the Bible. They talk a lot of ancient visitors. They even talk of ley lines and how they're all interconnected. What some places on the planet are constituted as that used to be portals into other dimensions or other worlds. And I would always just say, if they replace this word alien with angels, it makes sense. Totally makes sense, because I was looking at it from a religious standpoint. However, the definition of alien is someone from somewhere else that comes here. And that could be an angel, could be demonic, whatever. They're coming from somewhere else into our world, our plane of existence. And do I believe in little green men? No. I do believe there are other entities out there, in not just what we would consider outer space, but possibly other dimensions or parallel dimensions alongside of ours. I saw one of the episodes that's very interesting, because they named certain places around the world that are what you would call like portals. The Bermuda Triangle being one of them, where it acts as a magnet where everything gets sucked in. And then there's a place in New Mexico. I can't remember the name of the town, but it's abandoned now. It's like the dead zone or something like that is what they call it now. Like back in the 70s, a guy was flying just a regular like crop plane over, and it crashed because it too was just like the Bermuda Triangle, where things are just sucked in. And there was the guy on the episode that had walked through there, and he said as soon as you got into that space, your ears started ringing. He said his nose started bleeding. You could feel this different, like you didn't belong there. It was like this different energy. So I totally believe that there are things that we may never understand until we're crossed over on the other side. But I totally believe that there are ley lines that go to different places, and maybe at one point our planet was a portal of some sort to other worlds or other dimensions, in various locations. Because I did an episode on ley lines also, and the way it's set up is our whole planet is like a giant grid. So I found that very interesting, and it kind of changed my mind about other entities. Um, and it would be a shame that we are the only life form that has intelligence as we do. It's a lot of wasted space, if you ask me. Um, but yeah, that's my answer for that one. Number 2 is, do you recall a past life? And I started group meditation at a place I found a couple months ago. One of the men that leads the meditation did a past life regression, a group past life meditation, um, about a month ago, and I was there. Did not know what to expect. I've had a lot of synchronicities that led me to believe who my last life was, which explains a lot of why I'm where I'm at now. Even the city I live in makes total sense. The past life meditation that I did, though, I had no expectations. I was like, this may not even work. It's a group in a group. But what I found was unprecedented. It was life-changing, soul-changing. Um, it was me seeing a part of the past that it's something I haven't had in this lifetime. Something that, and I've been on the fence about past lives for a very long time. This kind of solidified past lives for me because I don't have a relationship with my mother. She was very abusive growing up. So when I left home, we barely spoke, and at this point, we don't speak at all because I had to cut ties for my own sanity, for my own mind. And I always had this space in me that felt like I was unlovable, that I couldn't even get my mother to care enough about me to love me, kind of deal. And so, I'm thinking. So when I did the past life regression, um, it was like I had stepped into the Wild West. I stepped into a world where it was like maybe mid 1800s. I kept hearing I was in a field of yellow wildflowers, like everywhere, all kinds of different flowers. And I kept hearing, Mama, Mama, Mama. And I was like, are they talking to me? But at the same time, I felt like I was the one saying it, like I was her, but I wasn't her at the same time. And then all of a sudden, this beautiful woman comes traipsing through the grass, and she picks up this little girl, and she's just got this love for her that is amazing. It's nothing like I've ever felt for my own mother in my life. And it took me a minute, but I realized the little girl was me. And the woman was my mother also. We had lived the same roles in a past life. But she was the exact opposite person she is now. Her daughter was everything to her. The little girl was 6 or 7. I was blonde hair, blue eyed, beautiful. The father came riding up at some point on a horse, jumped down, grabbed her up, hugged her. They were just this happy, perfect little family. And then the scene switched to me, same age, 6 or 7. I was dying in a bed. I thought at first something like cholera or something just because of the time. But then I saw the snake bite on her ankle. It was a poisonous snake. And she wound up dying, or I wound up dying. She wound up, I actually could see her as I saw her soul leave her body, and she hung around Her mother was devastated. Her mother wound up dying like 3 months later because she could not cope with the loss of her child. The daughter had hung around that whole time to try and get her mom out of it because she knew that her mom was going that way. She quit eating, she quit drinking, she basically killed herself through starvation and lack of water because she could not go on without her child. And at this point in the meditation, I'm bawling because I've never had that kind of love relationship with my mother. And it kind of makes me teary-eyed now because I realized in that moment I was so angry that I never had or never would have that kind of relationship with my own mother. But at the same time, it was kind of a release because it was Spirit showing me, you have had this relationship before with her, just not now. You've had it in the past. So get over yourself. And I could also, at one point, hear the both of their spirits talking about what they would come into, what their roles would be in this lifetime. I didn't hear all the specs, but I knew that's what they were talking about. And it kind of gave me comfort to know we both came into this life, the life we're living now, exactly how we were supposed to. The roles we chose. And so that kind of gives me a little bit of comfort and kind of eases that emptiness I felt for not having a mother or daughter relationship, because I know somewhere in the past we've had it before. And it kind of made me realize why I'm terrified of snakes. I've had a phobia as long as I can remember of snakes. I can't look at a picture. I can't have a fake snake. I have boys which love to have fake snakes. I won't allow it. It's that bad. Anyway, that was for question 2. 3, do you believe in mermaids? Absolutely. But my take on mermaids may be a little different than other people. Again, I'm going to refer back to the show Ancient Aliens. They talked about mermaids. And coming from a Pentecostal background, I can't discount some of the Bible. There are some things in there that I'm just like, I don't resonate with. But there are some things in there that I have to consider. And an old friend of mine and I used to talk about this all the time about, because in the Bible it's not really mentioned. There are scriptures in there that make you think maybe this is what they're leaning toward, where angels and man came together and created the Nephilim, the children of angels and man. Whether you believe in them or not, I do. These beings that were not supposed to exist according to the Bible God. And I find it fascinating because my first thoughts when it talks about, in Genesis, there's a scripture about the angels or the sons of God laid with the sons, daughters of men, which to me that is explaining that the angels and women came together, and they created men of renown. And I've actually got in one of my earlier posts, I go into detail about this, but I've been told that the men of renown, they're talking about political men. I don't think so. I think it's literal. They're created these humanoid creatures that may have powers. They may have abilities that are just humankind doesn't understand the concept of. And my first thought was the Greek gods. And I almost feel like the Greek gods were the first line of these children. I totally believe they existed. I don't think they were myth. I think they were the firstborn of angels and man laying together. They had specific powers. They ruled different areas. Um, and in that mind frame, I think mermaids could have been one of those. Nephilim. Uh, like I said, we will never know until we're crossed over any of this stuff for a fact or not. We may never know even then. But that's my take on that, and I find it fascinating, very fascinating, to think about. Once you go down that rabbit hole, it's hard not to get swept up in a lot of things. But I totally, wholeheartedly believe that mermaids were a product of the angels and man coming together. Also, um, do you believe in Bigfoot? Is number 4. Yes and no. I mean, do I believe there's a big hairy monkey running around the woods that's man-like? No. I believe humankind has exaggerated what Bigfoot could be. That's not saying that there's something not out there that is like a mythical, we've deemed as a mythical creature that doesn't exist. Because, let's face it, if we're saying God exists, if we're saying angels exist, if we're saying demons exist, if we're saying Nephilim exist, if we're saying mermaids exist, why not Bigfoot? So that's my answer to that. Number 5, do you believe in ghosts? Wholeheartedly. I've had many experiences with ghosts. I had a incident in Branson several years ago. My youngest son was a couple, maybe 4. It was horrifying. It is to date the worst paranormal experience I've ever had. And if you guys want me to tell the story, I will. It's also on my blog. I can link the post for that below. But when we came back, things were happening in my house. There was an incident where my son, it was like midnight. I don't sleep at night, so I'm up all the time at night. I was looking through my movie selection to find a movie to watch, and I hear my son in there. No, no, don't. I'm trying to sleep. And I'm like, what is happening? Because he's by himself. And I go in there, and he's asleep. And I come back out, and I resume looking for a movie. And all of a sudden, his toys start going off. He's got many, against my wishes, from other family members that like to annoy me, many toys that have lights and bells and whistles and things that go off at this time. And I go in there, and the toys are all of his toys are in the floor going crazy. And I'm like, what is happening? And so I turn them all off. And he's snoring at this point. He's like over there just snoring away. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, whoever's in here, it's time to go away. You can play with him tomorrow. And so I leave the room, and I get settled down, and I start looking for a movie again. Maybe 5 minutes goes by, and the toys are going off again. And I'm like, what the hell? I turned them all off. I go in there, they're all over the floor again, like going crazy, moving around, lights, bells, whistles, the whole 9. And I'm like, okay. So I took the batteries out of all these toys, put them in a pile by the wall, come back out, start looking through the movies again, and they're going off again. And I'm like instantly, as soon as I came back out and started looking, I'm holding the battery still in my hand. How is this possible? I go in there, all of his toys are going off. They're back in the floor. At this point, I'm utterly freaked out. So I made sure they were off. Oh, but as soon as I walked back in the room, they shut off. Like someone was doing this on purpose to mess with me. And so I put them in the toy box, put a bunch of pillows over them, locked the toy box. And then that was the end of it. But it was at that point I'm like, okay, something followed us from Branson. It wasn't bad energy. It was, I'm guarantee it was a little kid around his age that was just wanted to play. But at the time, I was utterly freaked out, especially after what actually went down in Branson. So yeah, that was crazy. I've had quite a few paranormal experiences when I was a kid. I've had several since then, especially with my spiritual awakening going on. I've had a ton of stuff happen. So yeah, that was just one incident that I was like, yeah, this is a little much. So that was number 5. Number 6, do you believe in vampires? Do I believe in Bram Stoker's Dracula? No. I do believe there are people that can suck you dry, energetically, physically, just negative, narcissistic energy vampires. I totally believe that those exist because I've met more than my fair share of those people. I am just now learning to discern those kind of energies and stay the hell away from them. I know there's animals out there that are basically vampires, and who knows, our DNA could change at some point to adapt to become like that. I just want to, if I become a vampire, I want to be able to live forever and be beautiful again and young looking instead of my 40-something years. So, yeah, that's the answer to that one. So, number 7, have you ever astral traveled that you know of? So, no. I did have an incident when I was 12. It was a horrible experience. But there was a moment in the in that time frame that I could see myself below in the hallway of my house. I had just gotten abused really bad by my mom. I still to this day don't know what it was. If it was an astral projection, if it was a premonition of something that was going to happen, if she continued that day, or a combination, or if I maybe died for a second. I don't know. All I know is there was a point where I was up above myself and my mother looking down, and that lasted maybe 5 seconds. Yeah, I can tell that story in detail too. I'm kind of over it now. I do have that in my blog as well. So if you guys want me to tell that story, let me know in the comments below, and I will. Number 8, have you ever had sleep paralysis? No. I get freaked out enough when, because I've had quite a few times in the house I'm currently living in, where I've had someone running their hands up and down my body. But I've never had sleep paralysis. Now, I do have insomnia. I've had it as long as I can remember. I also have sleptwalked. I've talked in my sleep. I've done all kinds of things in my sleep. Crazy things. And I don't ever remember it. I get told the next day, hey, you did this in your sleep. I'm like, okay. It's old hat for me. And I think part of that is because of the insomnia. Because when I finally do sleep, I'm out. I'm out hard. Yeah, there was even an incident when I was 12, probably right around the time of the other incident, where I was sleepwalking down the street, and my mom caught me a couple times. I was like 5 blocks away from the house at like 3 in the morning. But yeah, I don't think I sleep enough to have sleep paralysis or someone attacked me in my sleep. Usually when it's like right as I'm starting to try and doze off, that someone is like touching me and I'm like, get off me, and then they stop. But yeah, I've never had that. It would probably really freak me out. Okay, so number 9, do you have any of the 8 clairs? Since I just started my spiritual journey in June of 2018, I've done a lot of researching. a lot of delving in, looking at things, and I really haven't delved too much into many of the clairs. I do know with a couple books that I have that I've read several times, that I am clairvoyant and claircognizant, and I think both of those work together in tandem. It's not one or the other. They're both working at the same time. I have had a few incidences, and I don't remember the name of the clair, where you smell things. I've had maybe like 4 of those instances. And when I told someone what happened, they're like, "Oh my God, because of this and this and this," and I'm like, "That's why." It didn't really make sense to me, but it's usually when someone is really trying to get me to pay attention to something. I smell like a fire, or I smelled lilies one day. Really, like I was sneezing from the smell. So yeah, that's crazy. I feel like because I am psychic, I am a medium. I'm in training. I'm still learning. Eventually, all these clairs will come to surface and work together. But so far, they haven't. I do know I saw my one and only spirit physically saw them. Was right after the incident with my son. I saw a woman in like 18th century mourning gown with the veil over her face in the hallway between my 2 sons' rooms. And that, I think, all ties back to the Branson incident as well. But I saw her, and then I looked right, and I was like, and I looked back, and she was gone. But I totally feel like she was there protecting them, watching over them. And I feel like she's still, to this day, with my boys, watching over them, because she was a mother. And so that was number 9. Number 10, have you ever had a paranormal experience? Yeah, I just told you guys about this paranormal experience. I've had so many. The Branson incident, it happened like 10 years ago. It's still emblazoned in my mind like it happened yesterday. I have not been able to sleep without a nightlight since then, because things come out in the dark, especially in weird old hotels. So again, if you guys want me to tell that story, I can put it in the comments below. I can do that. It's also on my blog as well, which I will post that below as well. So number 11, have you ever been abducted or contacted by aliens? No. No abduction, no contact. However, I did have an incident at work one day. I was listening to meditation music, just to kind of zone out everybody else. And I was doing my job. My job is very routine. I do the same thing every day. So my job is very routine, and I was just in this. I'm just doing the job, listening to the music, and I had like this epiphany moment. I can't even remember what it was now. I'm sure I put it in my blog. But also, all of a sudden, I had this visual of. It looked like somebody in a skybox. Went all the way, windows all the way around, and there was a chair or a love seat here, and then a round table in the middle. And there was these 3 alien-looking things that raised up when I had this aha light bulb moment. And it flashed to this scene where they all raised up and looked at me like, "She's awake." And then it was gone. So, yeah, that was number 11. If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up, please. If you want to hear more, please subscribe. Thank you, and have a good night.